Nope, they can hear us now. Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. How's everybody doing today on this Rally Tuesday, I guess we could call it?
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Happy Tuesday, all of our buzzer beaters. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. Goal of this segment is to review what happens in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we can take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Top Step performance coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 13 years and in the futures markets, trading for the past six. And that's Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for 2 years. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experience, some knowledge, and hopefully help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. You are all our audience, our chat. Let us know how you did today. Were you up on the day, down on the day? Maybe you stayed flat today. See some traders, Monica saying, shout out to the nice call on the Russell. We will talk about that today as well. Hopefully, some of you guys caught that. And, anytime I say hopefully you caught it, hopefully you caught it based on your own analysis. Anything we share here is for educational purposes only, not a suggestion to take a trade. But hopefully you see kind of why that may have played out and maybe you took a part of it because it fit your playbook. Um, your what's going on, Tribe? There you go, Tribe. You've been trying to get me to do that for a while, I think, and there you go. Uh, first green day in a while. Um, Recent two-sided action had me looking for spots to short. Got hit. GDO. Yeah, I get that. Right, we're maybe not expecting so much of a directional move in the equities. Um, Boomer Brian had a great trading day, finally up 400 on an XFA and sat in the longest trade of my life. 3 hour trade. Market's
Good.
moving in your direction. That's all you got to do. Uh, Rode the MES for 60% of the morning move for Bink. Nice job. Green day for Lioness Rain. Good stuff. Good to hear. Good to hear, everyone. And if you had a red day, hopefully it was a managed red day. Understand that if it's managed, you don't have to make it back tomorrow or the next day. You can just trade, take good setups, and go from there. You were going to say something, Coach Paul?
No, you got it. I was just going to read the same comment.
Okay, got you.
We're doing
Got
a
you.
lot of things same today. Same
Yeah,
shirt.
same shirt.
Uh,
I left my hat off today because we would literally be twins if I had it on. But it's a good
well,
shirt.
mine's long sleeve, and
Mine's
at
short.
least we're not identical.
Good shirt. It's a good shirt. All right, let's talk about the markets. We did have some news out this morning. We had Jolt's job openings come in at 7.391 million. Forecast was 7.1 million. We had U.S. factory orders month over month come in at negative 3.7%. Forecast was negative 3.2%. We did have a Eurozone CPI number last night, Swiss CPI numbers as well. Um, we do have some numbers coming out later in the week. We have S&P Services PMI tomorrow uh, and Composite PMI tomorrow. Bank of Canada rate decision. Uh, have of course, initial jobless claims on Thursday, U.S. trade balance on Thursday as well, and then probably the biggest number of the week, maybe the month. We got a Fed meeting tomorrow. I mean next week, but non-farm this Friday. So still some numbers to come later in the week. Anything you got on the news front, Coach? I was kind of out of it. Didn't really see much as far as headlines go.
Yeah, it seemed like you were focused on your trading and not on the news,
Funny how that
which
works.
is I highly recommend that. Know when the news is, but I think everything, to repeat myself for the 100th time, it's all about the tea.
Yep.
Um, but I think, setting up coming into non-farm payrolls is going to be a bigger than usual number considering the background, considering GDP is slipping. We see a hike in unemployment. I think it'll affect the bonds, and bad news will be good news for the stocks. That's my feeling, but I'm a technician, so let's get to the charts.
Let's get to The charts. There are 35 different markets we can trade with top step accounts, not just the equities. And today, to the downside, we had the euro down 0.62%, Japanese yen down 0.84%, and the Swiss franc, our biggest percentage mover, to the downside at 0.87%. To the upside, we had micro Bitcoin futures up 1.48%, the Russell up 1.57%, and heating oil, our biggest percentage mover, to the upside at 2.69%. To talk about the big four, we had crude oil up 1.36%, the S&P up 0.49%, gold down 0.59%, and the Nasdaq up 0.63% to round out our big four. We're gonna switch it up. We are gonna start with the Russell, Coach Paul.
Rusty finally did it.
Biggest percentage mover to the upside in the equities. We drew this trend line a couple days ago, maybe last week. What are we looking at here on the daily, Coach Paul?
Well, the daily we finally closed above and with some authority, um, above this long term, but that's off the all-time high, I believe. Um, yeah, well,
Yep.
for government work. Um, well, definitely for this move down. We've been watching this just being compressed. Very nice movement on decent buying volume. Um, Looks like we can make a test. We closed over the 20. We're still the cross above the 20 and the 50, and it's good structure to make a move up to the 200.
Yeah, the Russell was really the leader today. I had gotten some signals to go long in the Russell, and I took it in the Nasdaq. And if I took it in the Russell when it gave me the signal as the leader, it would have been a much easier day because the Russell was just saying, it's kind of screaming to the upside, and that kind of goes along with what you said, Coach Paul. Where if we look at the Russell compared to some of the other equity markets, and I'm gonna pull up a side by side here and take a look at the Russell on, yeah, move some of these drawings. I'll bring them back in a second. But let's put the Nasdaq on the left side and the Russell on the right side. The Russell's still under that 200 moving average on the daily, where the Nasdaq's above it. The S&P should be above it after today's price action. And we talked about this last week. If we were going to continue to see the equities rally, the Russell may have the most room to play catch up. And intraday, what does that mean? We might see it make some of the biggest percentage gains on the day. Uh, which you make more money trading the Nasdaq because of the tick value and the amount of average points that it trades. You could, but the reason I think it makes sense to look at the Russell as opposed to something like the Nasdaq today, and again, I traded the Nasdaq, is the ease of price action. Um, and what does that mean? Right? What is this guy talking about? Uh, there was just a lot less as far as pullback and overlap goes in the Russell than there is in the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq was pretty clean, right? It trended up, but if we look at this Russell chart, um, there's just a lot more clean price action here, right? A lot less pullbacks, levels hold a little bit better. So could you make more trading than Nasdaq? You could, but I think you would have. Or when I look at this, I look at the Russell as an easier chart to trade for the day. Um,
Yeah, less variance.
there you go.
That variance in, well, anybody who trades Nasdaq will attest to that. But being a broader based index, 2,000 stocks, it's going to move smoother.
Yep.
You can't. It's harder to manipulate 2,000 stocks than seven. Um, and I'm not, I shouldn't say manipulate, but it's smoother because it has a broader base. Another just interesting thing that it gives a little more credence to the all overall equity rally because now it's more broad based. It's safe. They're buying the Russell. Um, Now, this isn't investment advice. This isn't trading advice. This is technical, and the technicals are pretty friendly to equities, as we've been talking about. And now it looks like continuation when we have this kind of buying today that was, um, I would say, not expected. And we look at that daily. It doesn't look like that's not much.
No,
But when that buying set off the jolts report, um, it didn't stop. The
yep,
algos were all phases go, buy Mortimer, buy. Um, so looks like but I'm saying, and with the Russell joining in, it gives more credence to bigger money is coming into stocks, and feeling safe.
absolutely. So a really nice rally here. We got some questions pretty early. One from Greg B here. Jay and Paul, I was red early on until I realized the market was melting up, jumped in and rode the wave back to green. Question: how can you identify as soon as possible that the wave is over? Uh, Extension. And if you're talking about this upside move, we got kind of extended. How do you identify quickly that the wave is over? If I'm looking at shorter time frame candles, if I'm looking at a 3 minute, right? If these candles start to, the range on these candles are lower, volume starts to decrease a little bit, and more important, we start getting to levels where we see less initiative from market participants, right? If we look at a higher time frame chart, looking at it daily, so I traded the Nasdaq today. My goal was to try to trade the Nasdaq up to 21,800. Now, that's where I want the market to go. The market's going to go wherever it wants to go. But as we're approaching that target, I got to ask myself, how good of a job is the market doing at continuing to reach that target, 21,800? Uh, so, the way I traded this today was kind of scaling in and out of a position. But if we look, Greg, at the couple things here. Look at VWAP. Look at how far we are extended. We're getting closer to that target, right? And I think I was on with JD and Coach Vince at this time, and we were talking about, is there more room left in this trend to trade up? So I was already flat in my in my account, but I think there's potentially 50 more points available in this trend. Look at the volume here and how extended we are from VWAP. Coach Paul, you've pointed this out to me. We were on a 3 minute chart, we were 10 ATRs away from VWAP.
Yeah.
That might tell you that if the wave isn't over, it might need to crash for a second and reset because we're getting a little extended. Think about who's buying here. It's everyone who said, "Oh shit, I missed the move," but it's just going up, so I have to buy it. Look at where VWAP is. This
It
is
not only
go
we
ahead,
were
coach.
10 away, but look at volume.
Right.
It's fading. So it needs buyers to continue, right?
Yep.
And in that, we went sideways for what, about a half an hour.
Correct.
Now, if we look at the half hour, at that time, you don't want to see it break the low of the half hour because every that look at that higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, broke that higher low and never recovered.
Yep.
And on top of that, in the 3 minutes, we're 10 ATRs away in volume, and we can see that even closer. Volume is
Yeah. Look
fading.
at this 30-minute candle. That's not what you want to see.
Yeah, you need more. Think of it as a fire, energy. It needs to keep bringing in more wood. If you have a fire, all of a sudden you run out of wood, the intensity of fire goes, and then it turns around. That's one way to look at it. Another way to do is risk management. 2 or 3 to 1, and you're done.
Right.
Because how many times can you catch a 10 to 1 in a day?
With a full position in a day. I mean, if I'm risking 1 point on the Nasdaq, maybe I can get 10 every once in a
Okay.
while, but I'll probably get stopped
Yeah.
out every time I take that trade. Might have like a 1% win rate on that.
So
Not
for
often with proper risk.
to execute, and anything that you have an edge where you don't have to make. By the way, you're not going to make money every day. Don't fool yourself. Um, but going back to the 2 to 1, and part of that is to understand how that's reasonable. 2 to 1, 2.5 to 1, 3 to 1. it's very reasonable for a day trade, and
Yep.
that's what we are. But when we're 10 ATRs away from the volume, I will tell you this: the good advice is don't establish longs there. Look
It's a
for,
great point.
I'm not looking to get short, but I would look maybe like here. It broke that low. How much do I have to risk if I take that trade?
If you take if you're taking a long at this low, you're saying here.
If you take a short at that low,
Okay. If you take this
it-
short and you risk the high of that 30-minute candle, I mean, it's a 30-point risk. It's reasonable with micros, right, to take that risk. If we break that low, it's a 3-bar reversal on the 30-minute chart, right?
yeah.
It's a pretty good risk to reward there.
So
Especially what I really like about this is where did we go back to? Volume. It came right back
volume.
to view up.
So those are some of the ways. But be consistent in it. I like the fact that you saw that the flow changed. Congratulations on that. That's you're starting to become a seasoned trader.
Yep, 100%. Good question, Greg. Uh, GDL asked, did I buy pullbacks or long? I scaled in and out of this position 2 hours. Uh, I initially tried to get long here in this price action here, got chopped up. I think I took a stop out on this when we held view up. I said I wanted to get long again, was long, took another stop out here. And then I, reminded myself, hey, be patient. We really haven't seen, look at this first hour, right? And you hear Hogue say it all the time. You hear myself and Coach Paul say it. When we have urgency, which is VWAP leaving an opening range early, then I want to be aggressive. I want to be in. When we don't have urgency, right, and we spend the first hour of the day of the New York session in that opening range with VWAP, the likelihood of us staying in this opening range for the day, I'm going to take my odds, right? Eventually, we're going to break out of this. And it was just being patient. So, this trade, once we started to break, it was after that first hour where we didn't get an initial, huge move. Uh, at this point, it was just scaling in and out. So, I think I was in a two lot here, taking some of it off. Any of these pullbacks, I would add a contract back on. It was multiple executions of the same trade idea, but from, you know, 10:30, actually all day in the equities, the only trades I took were longs, but from 10:30 Central 10:30 Eastern time on, it was, try to take pieces of the trend along the way. Uh,
Well, I like about is you trade. You hear me say it a lot, and taking one side
mhm.
and trading from that side. And here you didn't want to sell it because it was high.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things that can really. Oh, I got really good at that. At one point, trying to because stocks were too high, and I could sell the high, except they kept on going higher.
Yeah.
That's when I said, "Whoa, I have to, I have to
Maybe
reevaluate what I'm doing here."
right. Right. All right. Anything else on the equities, coach?
Oh, but there was a nice J trade there too.
You looking at this one
Oh, that
or
that one,
at the
the
lows?
first when it broke out of the range. No,
Oh yeah,
right when it broke out of the range there, then right there,
this one.
because that took it out back into the range, a halfway point, and that's the one that really
Yeah.
that jolts.
So it was like 6 minutes after Jolts, but yeah, that's what that was.
Uh,
Yeah, that once yeah, Coach Paul, I think I saw this and got I'll use your word assertive, and maybe once I saw this, I was like, oh shit, they're not able to take this thing lower. I want to get into this, and maybe sized up a little bit too much too early, and a little late, and got caught in a pullback. But yeah, once we got this rejection, um, that was kind of time to go.
yeah,
And
you could tell, but just that one is like all the. This is Pete Stoudemire used to put it. Tell me, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't bring that down.
right,
That's That's a selling exhaustion, which came early. What was kind of we saw that yesterday, I believe.
Today's charts look almost exactly the same as yesterday.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. But we look at the Globex opening range all the time, right? Here's yesterday's with VWAP, and then here is today's with VWAP, and it's almost the exact same chart, right?
Yeah.
Initially,
It is.
overnight, we had selling, came into the New York session, checked that selling. No, everyone's done selling it, and we buy. And the same thing happened today, just a little bit more of an extension.
Yeah. And it's drifting higher above the 200. It's back in its natural state.
Stocks go up.
Stop. Grr. What was that meme for years?
Oh
There was
yeah,
a whole meme on that.
yep.
Stonks, whatever.
Stonks. They are meant to go up, and pretty nice rally here. What I'm looking at on a higher time frame, looking at this 30-minute candle right here. This one just kind of sticks out, closing at the high of it. The range of that 21,681 down to 484. We can see we kind of settled in that. Why am I picking this one? Is because this sell side imbalance, we haven't traded through it since today. Let's see if we hold that high and then continue to make another high from here. We do know on the daily that the 20 moving average has been trending up, kind of using it as a support. Maybe we get a little extended from it, but that's okay. Uh, I'm kind of bullish these markets until they give us a reason not to be. Anything else you got on the equities, Coach Ball?
That's about it.
Awesome stuff.
Um,
Go ahead.
Congratulations to Rusty for breaking out.
Uh,
That's my last comment on the
the
equities.
Rusty, the Rusty. It makes some pretty big percentage moves. I think I've seen more 3 to 4% days in the Russell than I have in the Nasdaq, to be honest with you. Uh, and like you said, it's hard to turn around. So once it gets going in a direction, it looks like it likes to stay in that direction and not do all the whipsaw stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
Shako has a question. Is there any indicator or tips to stay in trending days like today in the S&P? There's
I'll
a
just
bunch
say
of.
it.
Go ahead. Yeah, you
VWAP,
got it. Yep.
VWAP, follow the buying or selling. See if VWAP is trending like that or is it flat? That's my
Yeah.
go-to.
That's what I use as well. It's VWAP. I will say that during the day, I am anchoring multiple of these because a lot of times what happens is we get extended, right? We get this extension, which is fine, right? If I'm in a long, I know at some point the way VWAP works, we're going to get extended because all of the big buying is going to stop and let the smaller buying continue to move price higher. And right, just said it in the chat, but VWAP is far away. So a lot of times what I'll do, and could you use a moving average? Yeah, right. Could I use a 20 moving average is the gold line on my chart. Does that stay closer to price? It does. Um, and you could use something like that, right? I hear traders talk about, a 9 moving average, I think it is, or a 21 moving average.
Yeah.
You could do that. For me, what I do is when we start to trend, I keep finding high volume, right? Like if I bought this pullback, I'm going to anchor a VWAP to that pullback and we go from there, right? And then we get another pullback or we get a high volume candle like this one. I'll anchor another VWAP to that. And if that keeps trending up, then that tells me not just price, but volume is going with it, right? You see how all these VWAPs keep going? We're not closing under them. Here's another high volume candle. That VWAP never crosses below that low. So we keep trending up. And now look what happens when price starts to break those. It's the way I do it. There's a bunch of different ways.
Oh, I like
Oh,
that. Is that because the buying, which is when VWAP measures the buying, because it adds volume to it. That it's continuing to happen, right? What you just did, you can see it. It's continuing until it doesn't, um, which will happen. Well, I noticed there was look at the volume just trailing down, getting smaller and smaller. I like to see a VWAP on that lowest volume buy, which was on the highs.
Oh yeah, up here.
Well, to the left, the right there.
See, it crossed above, but look at like it started to flatten out, and again, it came back into this range. All of the other ones we saw did not come back into that range.
Mm, well, those are a couple ways.
Yep. Uh, somebody
And
asking
don't
up.
be afraid to test it. Well,
Right.
I say use VWAP because it's actual volume. It's a actual measured. It's a great tool.
Other ways you can use. I've worked with some traders in the VIP program that used moving average crossovers. Right, if you look at a 20 and a 50 on a shorter time frame, we can look at it this way. Right here, the 20 is the gold one, the 50 is purple. The shorter time frame, which is gold, is above purple, which means we're trending up, and there's pretty nice separation between those moving averages, which means that price is moving significantly in this time frame. You could look at any pullbacks to the longer time frame as long as they hold as potential to get in. We can see once that crosses, then, or we cross under the 20 and close under it, then maybe a little bit of a change of direction. There's a bunch of different ways. I don't know that there's a right or wrong way. Uh, Whatever you decide to use, keep it consistent, right? Here we go again. This is last night. We have separation between the moving averages. The 20 is below the 50, which means we're trending lower, and there's separation, which means price is actually going. We check into that 50 and reject. This is on a 3 minute time frame. It's going to look different on whatever time frame you use, but that's a pretty good way to do it also. And then any of those crosses, if a cross leads to separation, that could be a pretty good indication
Ooh,
of a
there
potential
was a
trend.
just saw a J trade there.
Down here,
Once you see them, yeah,
yeah, they just stick out, right?
yeah, it did get stopped out. But
Oh yeah, it got stopped out, and then there
oh,
was
it didn't
another.
close.
No, it didn't.
No.
It didn't.
Anyway,
Um, you see them all the time. Yeah, you just like, oh, there's another one. Look at that. All right. Let's move on to gold. Move on to gold. Let's take these moving averages off. Take a look at gold on a daily. Coach Paul, what are we looking at here?
still a little correction. Trending higher. Still looks pretty good to me. We had look at we had half was at 50%. We found support.
Yep.
Um, Very small range. Light selling volume doesn't change the upward trend. Looking like a good place that I'm looking to buy it tonight.
Good stuff. Yeah, that 50% was a target. I was short in slow markets last night. Didn't really get the follow through I was looking for overnight. So took the profits on the trade. But think this is a healthy pullback. Aaron, who trades gold all the time, strictly gold, was saying, he's welcoming this pullback, and I think kind of a necessary move. Coach Paul, we had a pretty big day yesterday, almost 3% up day in one direction. It's not surprising to see maybe some profit taking, a little bit of retracement of that move, but that 50% holding. Looks pretty bullish for gold. I do agree with you. Shout out to Paul H in the chat that says, shout out to Coach Paul. In the 12.5% DLL rule, I passed the 50K combine in 11 days. The first six were red days, but the 12.5% meant the account survived to pass. Super happy with that. I now have two XFAs. I mean,
That's awesome to hear.
what else can you say to that?
That is the definition of capital preservation.
So, Paul,
Cutting losses.
I want to ask Paul H. Paul H hit the like. Actually, let's call it his whole government name. You didn't hear the last part of it. It's hit the like. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button. But Paul, those six losing days initially to start an account. This is for Paul and anybody else in the chat. How many of us have kept an account where the first 6 days were a loser? Be honest. For me, with a combine, I'm gonna be honest. I probably don't keep them that long. Sometimes that's a practice what you preach, and maybe I should be a little bit better with that. But that is a that's a testament to risk management over everything. You can lose 6 days in a row, but with that 12.5%, kind of building in more days, and then you catch a couple good ones, and all the losses don't mean anything. So great stuff, Paul.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And it'll be a lesson. I mean, I'm just from my experience, it's I mean, we've heard of the principle, cut your losses, let your winners ride, but really what does cut your losses mean? Um, yeah, allowing yourself to have I put it this way, and it's a classic, it's you're fighting a battle every day. Now, in a war, if you use all your half your resources on one battle, it's going to be hard to finish the war. So keeping your resources, which is your capital, um, and that's when that becomes habitual over time, you're going to get bigger capital and bigger money. But until you get that habit, it's usually, and I went through a boom and bust for a long time, thinking that, oh, wow, I just keep doing this without a plan. Just, I got on the right side and didn't really manage the account. So it's a great lesson. Congratulations. Let's keep it up.
We got a question. 12.5% is how much? We're talking about of the drawdown of the account. So if you're trading with a 50K account, start with an initial $2,000 drawdown, right? 12.5% or 12% in your case, right, Coach Paul? 12% of that is the drawdown. So 2,000 times 0.12 is $240.
Yeah.
$240 risk, which if you're trading the right contract size, should be feasible, right? I think we've made this suggestion where, 2 to 3 micros is enough. 1 micro is really enough on a 50K account. Um, with that initial drawdown and then scaling that, right? Where if you lose that 240 on that first day, right? So now you got 2000 minus 240. Now you're at 1760. What's 12% of that? On that second day, your drawdown is $211. Well, you're scaling down the drawdown as your account fluctuates. Maybe you don't want to aggressively scale up. Maybe you want to go the other way, right? Let's say I make $1,000. Do I want to continue to risk 12%, or do I want to go the opposite way to because that dollar amount increases? But great job, Paul. He said he kept doing that because he wanted to prove it worked, and it did. So shout out to you.
All right. Great job.
Right. Let's move on. What market are we going to next? Crude oil. Are we finally breaking out?
Um, I believe so. It's let's get that cross of the 20 and the 50, and that seems like it's going to come. We didn't even go test the we didn't even test the 20 today. That's the
Nope.
first time in a
It's the first time
week.
in a long time. Yeah.
So, um, average volume, it's starting to drift higher. I still think there's a good probability to get to that 200 moving average. Um, so let's look at the half hour.
Right.
Staying above the 200. We had a decent, I mean, it was a slim day,
Yeah.
which what another way we can look at it is, well, we're not getting the selling. The downtrend is losing its energy. Um, there was a place to sell it last night, but it's still a very small range. You could, I'm going to use this saying again, you can't make silk out of a pig's ear. Um, it's an old farmer saying.
I've never heard that.
Um, yeah, I said it here once. I got some reaction, but
Yeah.
here, what does that mean? It's just only so much on a small range day, like in the crude. Um, this is one where if you lose a lot of money, you got to stop.
You're over trading probably.
You're definitely over trading.
Yeah.
I understand that. That's like, oh, because you're just trying to be right. And going back to the 12.5% rule, part of that goes in to stop. I've seen this from my own trading, from 1,000 people that I've coached, is that you get to a point you want to avoid trying to be right at all costs.
Yeah.
Trading right means stop with a 12.5%. That's trading right. You're not getting, you can't go 50%. It's just too hard to get out of.
Right. Yeah.
So crude, yeah, it looks like it can continue to go. It's above the 200. Maybe it's going to do it at a snail's pace, but
Yeah. It's trying. It's trying. But just doing it the crude oil way. That's natural gas was kind of consolidated today as well. Let's see, we got any other questions in here? Can you trade strictly VWAP, such as the open, close, high, low, or more of a confluence? You say, can you trade strictly VWAP? I think you can. I don't know that I would try to, but I think you can. If you,
mm,
but so like if you just trade VWAP, it's kind of hard to like know where price is, right? Like say if I just take a look at the equities real quick and I hide price like Coach Paul loves to do. Actually, let's put a VWAP on there before we do that, because then we just have no idea where we are. Uh, I guess you'll see you'll see the
yep,
the price
just put a
line here.
simple moving average over that. Let's say the
There's the
50. There's
there's
a
the 20
20.
and the 50.
Say when it's all right.
That might quiet some of the noise for you, right? Where you're
Uh,
not seeing the intracandle movement. You're just volume is above the moving average and just let it work. Uh, might be onto something there.
you know why take it? It takes away some of the noise.
Yep.
Like sometimes I'll do that and I'll put a line chart once I'm in a position. Um, it just helps me get away from the noise of high, low, prices up, it's down. I should have got out here. Those things that could create a lot of anxiety. It helps me see the flow better and not get tempted to get short. And it's in this. No, I'm not saying you can't, but for me, I'm just ruling out that side. I don't want to do it. For me,
Yeah.
so yeah, I consider it more of a confluence. It 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 enhances your ability to see who's in control in the market.
Yep. This is interesting though.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe I'll try it in a practice account one day using
Yeah,
VWAP and the moving averages and see if we could
and to compare that to your results.
make some money. Uh, all right. Can you go over again the colors? The gold line here is the 20 moving average and the purple one is the 50. Anytime you see a white line on my chart, that is the 200 moving average, which where the hell is it? Right there.
And we're above the 200. Well,
Might be onto something there. Might be
yeah,
onto
but you
something
see,
there.
it's a lot less noise. It's
I
like,
just
what?
I don't know where my entries would be, right? That would be the only question I have, right? And I guess during the day you'll see, and yes, we're talking in hindsight, where a market that just trended up, so I know what happened already. Executing on this might be a different story, but if you're in a trade already and then you want to zoom out and not get caught up in the whipsaw, might be a decent way to look at the markets. But let me know how it goes, chat. Not financial advice. If you try it, do it in a practice account first. All right. Any other markets you want to talk about, Coach Paul? We could do have a couple other questions.
Um, did we do gold?
We did. It was a quick one.
It was a quick one. Yes, we did do gold. Well, that kind of tells the tale. Yeah, look at last night's opening.
That was okay. Let me do something here.
Boy, I bought
Canvas.
it and took a $100 loss. It was the best trade I had all day.
It's a nice loss.
Yeah, it is.
Good loss. We don't celebrate good losses enough.
No, we
If you have a
don't.
good loss, everyone, that is okay. We want good losses. We don't want catastrophic losses. Uh, there's last night's open. I'm gonna be looking at VWAP only charts.
So there's last night's open. Look at VWAP. Couldn't get sustain any buying. I didn't want to take the sell. I bought it. I had my stop, and I'm glad I got stopped out. Actually, didn't even look at it after that. Now, in hindsight, yeah, that was a great sell. I mean, just completely unbiased, but I have other positions I'm trading, but it was a really good sell. Why? Well, because the market was being sold. Really? I mean, I can't say that enough. Sometimes we need to get real simple.
Yep.
Like, it's not me, it's you, the market.
Right.
Um, so I think that actually sets up for I'm looking to buy it. We'll see if I get some structure tonight.
Stuff. Good stuff. All right. Let me switch this back to candles. All right. Let's get to questions. Let's get to some questions here. We got a question from Tribe. How do you settle on a strategy? Feel like I'm stuck with the amount of choices. A great question. Because there are a million different ways to execute a strategy. At the end of the day, we need to feel confident enough in whatever we're looking at to click the buy or the sell button, right? And to put on risk. So I'll tell you how I came up with my strategy. Um, Everyone has, different ways that they learn or interpret information and what makes sense to them. I think I've, self-defined on this show as somebody who is terrible at drawing trend lines. I just never knew where to anchor them. So I always felt like I was trying to guess where to put a trend line. And then I'd never felt confident in clicking the button based on a trend line. So I don't trade trend lines. Do they work for someone? Yes. They work for the person who looks at a trend line and processes information and says, oh, yeah, I can see that. That makes sense to me. For me, that thing was volume. Um, when I first took classes in trading, and it's the only classes I've ever paid for, uh, the focus on them was volume. And at that point, everything clicked. Now, at that just because everything clicked, where it helped my brain process the information, that doesn't mean I'm instantly profitable from here, right? Because I still need to learn how to execute that process, and that's an ever going thing. But find something that you feel confident enough to click the button, and then that's your strategy. Moving averages. I look at them every once in a while, and I work with Coach Paul over the last 2 years. So I've started to implement moving averages in my strategy, but I'm not taking trades based solely off of moving averages because that's not where my confidence lies. Um, there isn't anything that works 100% of the time. So I think more than anything, it has to make sense to you in order for you to feel confident in clicking the button at the end of the day. What would you say to that, Coach Paul?
Um, First of all, there is so many, right? But one of the things in your journey is to take ones that make sense to you
Yep.
and build your own that you can execute. And I mean, we can't all execute the same strategy.
Markets will be
I
flat.
mean, I like to take a measured risk and see if it runs. 2 to 1 on a day trade, a lot more than that on a swing trade, but it's repeatable. What I would suggest is find a real simple strategy. Opening range breakout, um, 200 moving average breakout, something really simple that you can execute and willing to take the loss that is part of a percentage of your capital. It's really important. Once you can do that, you've set a habit. You can follow a plan, stick to one, make it simple. From my experience, the more um, bells and whistles on a trading plan, the harder it is to execute. Um, so I would go down to go 4 things that you can understand, whether it's VWAP, a candle strategy with VWAP, with a moving average, something like that, where you and a time frame, and stick to a time frame for execution. Do not make this mistake. You got in on the 5 minute and you're looking at the 1 minute because it's losing. but consistent execution in a time frame and a plan that you can execute that has no more than 4 steps.
Yep. Good stuff, Coach Paul. All right. Let's rapid fire through some of these questions if we can. Uh During your early trading journey, did you experience distinct phases starting with chasing profits and focusing intensely on strategies and eventually understanding that mastering psychology was the key to success? Yes. Yes. I think I saw money, chased the profits, tried to jump to the strategy that was going to make me the money, realized that all of them were shitty and all of them did work at some point and it was not the strategy, it was me. And that's where we are now. Yes, that is the trader's journey
Yeah,
in in a couple sentences. Yes.
one of the best piece of advice I ever had was know thyself,
Yep.
which is in part of that trading plan is you have to execute it. You have to know yourself. You're going to stumble along the way. That's part of the learning process. You're going to struggle. You'll struggle poorly. You'll struggle well. When you struggle well, you're learning, and then you've built in habits, and then you know what you know. It takes time. By the way, this isn't a plug and play business.
Nope.
I'm gonna be straight up. It's just it's a habit. So um, create good habits. Know thyself.
Tribe says, sounds like I have more researching to do. Definitely going to look at simplifying my process. Tribe, I think you actually have to do the exact opposite. If you've researched a bunch of different strategies, the goal for you, I would say right now, is filtering. Uh, Filtering and simplifying, right? Down to like Coach Paul said, a 4 step process where, hey, this happens, this happens, this happens, trade. Um, I don't know if it's more research, it's more almost like spring cleaning where, hey, I've looked at all these other things. If I don't directly look at something that's on my chart, this could be the first place you start. If I have a bunch of shit on my charts and I can't say why they're on my charts, get rid of it. Right? You ever watch Hoarders where they just start going through a person's house and they're just like, "Hey, what is this? Do you use this?" And they're like, "No." All right, it's trash.
But I
Uh
might.
no, I don't. Yeah, if you haven't seen it for a year before I just like uncovered it covered it under your mattress, then throw it out. Start with that on your charts and simplify, filter, and you'll get to what makes sense to you. Uh, Din Din says, "Do you trade NQ or ES more and why?" I trade them both kind of evenly. I'll choose which equity market that I'll trade for the day based on which one looks like it has more fluid price action. And today that was the Russell, so I kind of chose wrong, but it still worked out. Uh,
Okay, Ethan, just when when you recognize you are trading on tilt, what do you personally do? Well, I know if I'm on tilt, if I'm down 12.5%. That's just, to keep it as simple because when you get on tilt, what are you blowing? Your account. So cut it off. Boom. I'm on tilt. Done. Don't. That has to be a habit. How
yep.
about you, coach?
For me, I'm gonna be honest. It's still every once in a while if I get on tilt, I'm just like I have to say it out loud, verbally, to kind of get out of my own headspace. Like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? And then I could say, okay, that's a clear voice that is telling myself to stop, right? And I don't beat myself up. I am patient with myself. But I said it yesterday when we ended. Be patient with yourself, but also be honest with yourself. If I'm ever on tilt, I'd have to ask myself just straight up, like, hey, why are we doing what we're doing right now? And then it helps to kind of pull me out of that mindset. Also, I sit just like physically just sit back in the chair and take a deep breath. Uh, Good question though. Bobby's World, Bobby, my man, Bobby. Coach Jay, I'm in a
Human.
live account with a 3K drawdown. I have a scalping strategy. Bobby also said he made 80K in 45 days, doesn't have a losing day, and I've had 4 figure days. Should I change my strategy? Coach Paul, go ahead.
Oh, no, I have, that one's at you. Welcome back. I haven't seen that name here in a long time. Of
Yep.
course not. Don't change your strategy.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. You're on quite a roll. You keep your eye on preserving capital. That's my advice, and I'll give it to you.
Bobby, you did say I've made over 80K, but fear the red days. Shout out, shall I change strategy? Yes, you should change your strategy, Bobby. You should change your strategy, but not your trading strategy. Change your account management strategy. You've been here before, been in a live account before, and you've taken payouts, pretty big payouts from the top step accounts. And I think at one point you were pretty close to the top on the leaderboard. So the strategy that you should change is what you do when you approach this part of account management. Right? We talked yesterday about internal resistance. Whatever happens, and I'm assuming that you've kind of worked these things out in just your timing or whatever it is, where you are in life, whatever it is that you've built the account to this point. Change your account management strategy. If you said you're afraid of losses, you already understand at this point, you've been doing this for a long enough time that losses are going to happen. Change the response to losing days from what you've had before. That's the only thing that you need to change. I don't care about your strategy. You're going to lose. 45 winning days in a row, amazing. You're going to lose. Change the response to losing days going forward. Because if you can hit 45 winning days in a row, take one loser, guess what? You could potentially go on another 30-day winning streak. Change that. That's the only thing that needs to change. Everything else, click the button however you want to. It's working. Uh, I think that's it. I think we answered all the questions.
Oh, someone wanted to look at cattle.
All right,
Guess
let's
who
do it.
that would be? Hey, Coach Hoop.
Coach Hoop accidentally said something about cattle from his burner account, aka the Top Step official account. But let's let's take a look at cattle.
Oh,
Shout out to the cow traders out there. Here we go, Coach Paul Cattle. Let me take. I do not like that bright red line on my chart. Get that out of here. All right, what are we looking at here?
oh, correction today. Right to the white line.
What is that white line chart?
Um, boy, that's an opportunity. Boy, yeah, there it is, right there. Do you buy it? Um, how many times has it bounced off on this uptrend?
Decent amount. It's starting to flatten out a little bit, but here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the fifth attempt, fifth test of it. The 20 and the 50 are still above each other. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, I look at that as an opportunity to buy and take a small amount of risk. And what I like about it is that you can tomorrow morning you're gonna know in the first 5 minutes, from my perspective.
I agree.
Um, but it's still in a rally. But let's look at that. What is that? The 3 minute?
I went to a
5
5.
minute.
Yeah, I went
Let's
to a
look at the
5 just
five
because you
minute.
mentioned 5. Here's the 5 minute from today.
Let's look
Yeah.
at that was a nice 2-to-1 trade on the buy side.
Was it? Talk about urgency. This might be the only market that we've seen with any real urgency that we've looked at. We established that opening range, and within 10 minutes, within 2 candles, we were out of it. Uh,
And once again, look at the volume start waning, waning.
mhm.
What is that saying? It, the buying, the buyers are not are done. Was that oh, wow? Look at that.
This is a
Interesting, but
late entry, right? We waited for the close all the way up here. I went two ATRs based. I went two ATR stop, and you get your 2 to 1. Uh,
now
Money's green.
you know what's interesting is the cattle, or especially in the meats. There's not a lot of retail business.
Yep.
So to me, the technicals are much firmer.
Mm.
They don't. Let's look at yesterday's opening.
Take a guess what VWAP did. Flat line. Never left.
Nope,
Different story, right? Different trade.
different trade, balanced.
Look at the day
Um,
prior. Urgency. Maybe a little fake out. Fake out action
no,
there.
that didn't leave. I bet on it.
Yep.
Yeah, that didn't leave. You get to see it enough.
Yeah.
Um, but look at that gap. Got filled. Gap, boy, gaps all over the place. But all of this is, I'm only like me. If I bought that, I need VWAP to go higher off that opening range. It didn't. For sellers, just that's urgency right there.
Yep.
The only
Man,
one that was
say this everyone every time we look at cattle on this show. I'm like, I'm gonna trade this on fast markets tomorrow, and I'm gonna be on fast markets tomorrow. I'm gonna keep it up on the side. Uh, if we get an urgency trade in the first 5 minutes in cattle, I'll put it on during fast markets. It's a good trade, right? The money's green.
But here tomorrow, I'm going to look at that 5 minutes, see if I can buy it.
Yep.
Oh, that's definitely urgency.
So the thing about this, and it's not gonna work all the time. Nothing is right. You could have a day like this one. This was May 28th, where VWAP never left the range and it just wasn't a good trade. At this point, I'm looking away. This market doesn't exist anymore. Right? If it doesn't go right away, and this one, VWAP took a little while to leave, but we see price going. Maybe I could take this. Here's how I would approach trading cattle, especially because I don't trade it every day. If it doesn't give me that trade, Coach Paul, I don't care what it does.
Yep,
Right? And go ahead.
it's balance.
Yep.
Now, if you're a range trader, know that. I would say you and I are not good. At least
I'm not.
from what
Yeah,
I
you can
know,
say it.
I'm
I'm
not
not.
a good range trader. I
Yep.
don't want to. I don't want to put you on the bench on the range days,
No,
but
I'll put myself there.
I put myself there also. But if you're in that, you're a range trader. That's that's opportunity.
Yep. Scalp that range. I mean, look at it. Flat VWAP, buy it, sell it. You could literally hit the reverse button in this. Now, that's not a suggestion to do that, but you could. Uh, nice market to trade, Coach Hoop. Nice market to trade. I'm just going to keep looking at examples of this. Hmm, interesting. All right. We got 2 minutes left.
All right.
Joe has a question. How do you select a product to trade out of the four indices as the chart all looks the same? Good question, Joe. Default to one. For me, I'm going to default right now to the S&Ps. It's going to be the first one I look at if I'm going to trade the equities. But from that point, and I kind of hesitate to say, look at all of them and see which one trades the best. That's kind of what I try to do. But at the end of the day, you can only trade one of them, right? So, uh, you know, what ultimately gets me to trade one over the other, right? If I'm making that decision, is seeing which one has cleaner price action for the day. We have the S&P on the top left, the Russell on the top right, the Dow on the bottom left, and the Nasdaq on the bottom right. And on a day like today, where Coach Paul, you said it, it's more of a broad-based rally. Pick one of them. Pick anyone. Um, I would suggest that if you're going to look at all four and try to pick one, maybe make the Nasdaq the last one, just because it's the most volatile, and then go from there. But pick one of them. Some days you're going to see when we identify the opening range that some markets stay in that opening range and some rally out of it. Then at that point, you decide what type of trader am I. If I'm a range bound trader, I'm going to trade the market that's staying in the range. If I'm a trend trader, I'm going to trade the market that's trending. Um, but in this case, on a day like today, they all look exactly the same. So trade the one that fits your risk budget.
Great advice, Coach.
Frankie says, "Why when I leave my highest volume candle always marked?" It's just a habit, Frankie. I remove the drawings on charts. Sometimes I remove a drawing on a chart and put it right back immediately. It's more of a It's like a mental tick, like putting it front of mind if I delete it and then put it back again. So, uh, all right. Anything else you got before we go, Coach Paul?
Um, we had some really good questions today. Um, and I'm glad to hear hit hit the like button. Um, Actually go through the whole process of keeping an account and passing it. So I just want to go back there. That's what risk management is all about. That's what patience is all about. Um, so take that lesson. If you're continually vacillating in and out of accounts, you're not managing the account. You're just trying to be right. And that's it.
Good stuff. I got nothing outside of that. Trade well, manage your risk, be patient with yourself, be honest with yourself. Uh, we got Coach Hoop coming up with a class in Discord in about 13 minutes. Then we have Coach Ray and Coach Vince, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Central Time. Of course, Dakota with slow markets at 7:30. Aaron with the London Open, 1:30 a.m. Central. E with the Euro trade at 3:30. Tomorrow's Wednesday, so she will have Dr. Jerome on for Neuro Wednesdays. Um, Talking about, you're struggling with trading psychology and things like that, I would suggest watching any of the last 4 Wednesday sessions of the Euro trade, because that is specifically for, I don't even think they have charts up, to be honest with you. They're specifically focusing on trader psychology. So you can go right to some of our traders at TopStep, live traders at TopStep, and see how they can help you. Uh, I will see everybody for fast markets tomorrow. Thank you, Coach Paul. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Andrew. Thanks everyone for joining. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so already. Tell your friends and family to like and subscribe as well. Tell somebody you love that you love them, and we will see you all tomorrow. Have a good one.
Have
Bye.
a good one. Bye.